Hey everyone, how's it going? Octopus here and welcome back to evercrisis. I'm going to be talking about a Zack build that I worked on. A huge shout out to Surge and JB for my streams and my community. They helped me out with just back and forth talking, going through some nerdy calculations as well. A lot of math, and came up with these 3 builds plus a little bit extra to help you build that perfect Zack, either for tanking, attacking, magic attack, whatever you want to do. Zack pretty much has it in his kit. Do note that he kind of is a single target character, and that's because when you play the Crisis Core, it's only him. They make you use only him in story mode, so they give him a lot of like self buffs, self heals. So we're going to take that into consideration as we talk about these builds, but let's jump in and talk about all the good Zack builds that you could be doing right now. Alright, so let's quickly touch upon who Zack is. What is he all about in this game when it comes to his role? Well, he's got multiple roles. He can be a very big, heavy tank, tons of HP, taking a bunch of hits and not even caring about it. He can be a magic damage dealer. He can be a physical damage dealer. He does AoE. He does single target. He is pretty much a solid character to pick up, and no matter what in this game, he's got even a couple of buffs and debuffs to take care of himself, a teammate, or just ruin the enemy's day with their defense all the way down. So let's go quickly over his weapons. So this is going to be the best way I can explain Zack really quickly just by looking at this page. He's pretty much got 2 of each type to himself. So if you look at the Crystal Sword, it's an AoE fire damage weapon. If you look at Falchion, it's an AoE wind damage weapon. So he's got 2 weapons. One is fire, one is wind AoE. Cool. Now we got Arc Sword here, which lowers magic defense down by medium up to high, and if you upgrade it, you can just do high right away. And if you look at Cutlass, Cutlass puts down the physical defense down. So now he's got 1 weapon for magic defense down and 1 weapon for physical defense down. So there's 1 of each there. You get where I'm getting at right here? So now that we look at something like the Enhanced Sword. Enhanced Sword is a healing weapon, while this sword right beside it is increasing your defense, your physical defense, and it has applies a regen as well. So he kind of has a healing, a defense increase, a regen, a little bit of heal. So he's got these self buffs for solo story play, which when I'm going through this list, I'm not going to really clue these in the builds because these are situational. They can help. Yes, they definitely will help, especially if your material slots are full. But for the most part, I want to talk about a really good DPS build for magic, physical, tanking, and everything else is situational that I just mentioned. So if someone on your team doesn't have that, like Cloud's not running Hard Edge, Barrett's not running W Machine, so on and so on, right, for the physical defense, and other characters for magic defense down, then Zack would take that place as a DPS / support or a tank / support. So keep that in mind. Those are like options when I show you these builds that you just slide in on situation. They're all good. There's nothing wrong with it. The healing is not the greatest because it's only 1, but most of the time a boss like the Tomberry will target 1 character only, and they'll go all the way down to red, where if you use Enhanced Sword on Zack, you're going to be like, okay, boom, back full HP. So there is no like bad weapon in every character's kit. It's all about situation. So don't sit here and be like, oh, why didn't you just throw that in there? That is for you to decide on the combat you're currently in, whatever quest you're on, whatever enemy you're facing. So keep that in mind. That is literally the entire kit of every character. I'm going to show you the best DPS or support, whatever they're supposed to be doing in their kits. So let's jump in and let's talk about it. Last bit is the Type 99 Longsword. It's a crit build. If you want to do crit build, you would put this in. Besides that, I don't really want to put this in just yet because crit builds are RNG and I don't want to deal with RNG. Yes, it will be super powerful if it lands. 10% crit rate, not that big, but the boost you get from crit boost, really, really good. So definitely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all situational. We're going to focus on 1, 2, 3 weapons right here, plus the weapons that are not in here because they're not part of the draw. Alright, so I did this in 2 styles. So style number 1, I'm going to go into the game and show you the builds. Style number 2 is I made another chart, another graph. And this is basically organizing all of Zack's weapons from magic on the top row to physical weapons on the bottom row. And again, if you're part of my Discord, I will have those there always, or you can just screenshot this, have on your phone, or come back to this video. But this is a very good visualizing of what is the strongest stat-wise of each weapon. This is not the final determination of if a weapon's good or not. This is just a little bit of like, okay, well, now I know that this is his strongest physical attack to add into all the math, right? So top row, I am going to be including the fully maxed out version of the umbrella, but I'm also going to include a non-umbrella build because one, you guys might not be here when this event's going on, so I definitely take that into consideration, but by then I'll probably have a better video like Zack build 2.0, right? But yeah, for the most part, if you don't have the last umbrella from co-op or you need help, jump on stream. We do lots of carries. We have a lot of main characters, aka whales, in our stream that will help you, and I'm pretty strong myself, so I'll definitely help you with that. Then you have the farmable Ifrit weapon at the top over there, so that does both physical and magical, and it is farmable all the way to that point of purple. But I will be showing you both versions of these weapons no matter what. But this one should be, everyone should have it. You don't have to make a level 90 to make it good. Level 70 is where mine's at. These are not the level 70 stats. These are the level 90 stats. There's a little bit of a difference there. So keep that in mind, that the picture doesn't dictate the level on any of these. Like those level 1s don't have 200. Alright, welcome to an organized version of Zack's basically substats, is our abilities. This is going to be a big factor into making builds and also just going into other characters' weapons. So if you ever want to know, hey, what does Zack weapons have? Here's a nice organized, again, it will be in my Discord. Have fun with it. HP, magic, defense over here, right? All these images will be down below. Now, this is another big deciding factor on making Zack's build, because things to point out is that the Falchion over here has a boost attack of 24 at level 90 5-star, no extra copies. None of this has extra copies. That is huge with wind potential, because there's a bunch of other wind weapons that are so good. And when you hit an enemy's weakness, that is wind, your character does so much damage. And then later on, we're going to add elemental defense down on top of it, because most enemies are immune to defense down or magic defense down. So these element builds are just going to get better and better and better. So elemental weapons are fantastic, and that's why I say consider looking at that Ifrit weapon and checking out its max stats, because you should be farming towards them. They're still really, really strong. Now, everything else here, this is for you guys, so you guys can organize your thoughts and not having to click through every single weapon and go change it to level 90 to see if you want to do it. Here's everything that's pretty much on Zack. My really, really nice weapons here that I enjoy the most is Zweinhander, because it has a boost attack of 24. The Falchion for physical attack, 24 points. You've got the Arc Sword with magic, 16 points, right? And then you've got Crystal Sword, which also has 16 points into attack and boost fire potency. So now this one's more for myself. I'll upload this if you guys want, but this is basically what you're going to be looking for when it comes to your first weapon and your offhand weapon. So basically you have the 2 weapons you can put on your character, and then you have their 3 sub weapons that you can put on for 50% more stats. I believe that Falchion and Zweinhander together are a very, very powerful combo, and you would put this in the main hand, this in the second. Same thing with this build over here, main hand, second, and then these are alternates to the umbrella. Arc Sword would be in the main hand with Ifrits or the Crystal Sword. And the reason I say that, through all his abilities, we're looking at that total percentage damage that he does. In a physical build, you have Slashing Thrust that deals 500% physical, non-elemental damage, and it has a chance to crit as well. And that's why I said crit builds are a thing on Zack, because the majority of his abilities are all crit. If you look, crit damage, crit damage, crit damage. There's crit all over this guy's kit, even on the supporting, weapons. Some of them, not all of them. But yeah, he is built for crit, technically, so when we figure out a really good crit build, he might be the one to showcase it the most. But looking here, he's got a 500% physical, non-elemental crit damage attack that comes from this Zweinhander. I really have a hard time pronouncing that. So this is one of my favorite builds when it comes to physical, because also it's an elemental build that you'll be getting 280% AoE wind damage, and his physical build has so much stat increase that you can max out the physical attack up plus other sub or R ability stats to just make this just hit like a freaking truck, right? So this is one of my favorites, and I'm going to go even into more detail than this, and I'm going to show you in game. So now then coming over to a magic build, which is just as powerful, especially if you're aiming for elemental. So you definitely, Zack is a natural built magical fire beast. He will do tons of fire damage for you, AoE and single target, and if you don't have the proper weapon with it, you can just throw a materia and still do a magic materia build or physical elemental build. So either one of these work for everything, and there's different ways of building this, but these are the 3 sets that I kind of want to show you. So this is another little chart that goes along with this one right here. So with the weapons comes the sub-weapons, and this is where it becomes really juicy. I will show you this in game so it looks a little bit more organized than my charts. I did this for myself. So you can see with these 2 as your main and your sub, you're looking at Murasami, Apocalypse, both Cloud Swords, and Tifa's Motor Drive, giving you base. Only a 5-star at level 90 will give you 52. The second you level up a copy of one of these, any of these get an extra copy, you're going to the max physical attack up on R abilities. Huge build right here because the Falchion here already comes naturally with a ton of physical attack up. And then this build also has wind damage coming from, again, his main hand and his sub-weapon and his other sub-weapon. So not only do you get a base of 11, and once you upgrade one, or this one, you'll get to the base of 15. And the more copies you get of this build, the stronger this build gets, because then you don't need to have 2 weapons to back up his physical attack. You can go into the stance. You know how we have that red big triangle that turns into blue? There's an attack stance and guard stance. There's abilities that if you're in attack stance, you get more damage to your abilities, physical or magical, or like I talked about, the crit build. So as soon as these start leveling up, especially this one, it's only going to take 2 weapons to get full physical attack up. So not only do you get physical attack up, you get wind attack up, and you get attack up as well from the symbol with a wand and a sword. You'll get more physical damage on top of it. This build just hits so hard. So if you really go like, what weapon should I work on? These 2 and these sub weapons. Now there is alternatives to every build, because your teammates might be Cloud, and then boom, Cloud will probably be using these already. There is other charts in my Discord that show you alternatives, and I can show you right now. So this is one of the charts I got. This is the physical attack chart. The Motor Drive Tifa weapon here giving you the biggest boost at maximum of 54. So once you get enough copies of this, it'll go all the way to 54, right? Where I'm not calculating that in the math I'm showing you right now. Then you've got your alternatives. You got Broadsword, Murasami, Maritime for the plus 40s, and then you have weaker versions. Again, once your Falchion is higher, you don't need to have these first 2 tiers. You can start rocking these instead for more crit build right there, or more survivability, because these have defense things. Defense to ice, wind, thunder. So these are alternatives to just stacking what I currently showed you, depending on who's your teammate and what they're running. And there's more charts that go into this, and it just keeps going. It's so good. So coming back to the build over here, this is just a way to relate with everyone. You only have 1 copy. You made a level 80, right? Don't make everything level 90. Changing to level 90 doesn't change too much, unless you really want to just stick to that build and only that build. That's build number 1, physical. Now his magical build is just as strong. It's just, again, elemental. If you're facing wind enemy, this is going to kill it. If not, you're spamming Zwinehander's ability because it does so much. It's like one of his best weapons. It's so good. So yeah, this build will make this thing's ability, C ability, just hit like a truck. And then this build is survivability with magic, and still a lot of magic. And again, this is going to be using the maxed out umbrella, and this is the alternative to the umbrella. You're either going to go arc into Ifrit or arc into crystal with these subs as well. So this one gives you 44 naturally, and all you gotta get is 1 more point to get that magic attack to the second highest tier, which is 40% increase plus 100 magic attack. So that really boosts your damage, right? But also giving you the magic attack stance, magic ability potency, and ability potency to 5. As these get stronger, this goes from 5% increase to 15% increase, and so on and so on. This build just gets better and better. And again, as it gets stronger with multiple copies, you don't need to use all 3 of these. You can come over here and switch that up to add even more things. And the flame weapon here from Barrett can be alternated between these weapons. These are the magic weapons, and this part is important because it depends who you're facing. So if you're using a magic build and you want to use something besides fire, because he has natural crystal sword and all that, and the Ifrit weapon, if you have materia that's like 5-star or 4-star that's really strong, its damage percentage is also really high, right? Especially if you level up all the way to max. So you can switch between an ice build, a fire build, a thunder build, right? A earth build, and future weapons coming out, because these all boost your magic attack up to 40 at max, or right now as a sub weapon plus 12. 3 copies, 36 into your pool right away. So these are all the alternatives. I really like these 2 because of the stance. When you're in unison, the red triangle attack stance, and that bar is full, you will do more damage because of these 2. And the higher and stronger you get, the stronger your character gets. It's kind of crazy. So a really, really good setup. This is the alternative to the magic setup. Now, if you're not here during the umbrella event, or you don't get a maxed out umbrella, totally fine. You don't have to use it. Thanks for the follow over on Twitch. The other alternate is Arc Sword with the Ifrit Blade or the Crystal. And it's pretty much the same setup, but you have one of the, I believe it's called the Rage Caller from Red 13 here, that will give you more fire potency. And the stronger these weapons get, the more fire potency you get. That is really strong, especially when attacking against someone's weakness. It does so much damage. So when you're attacking weakness on fire, this build is one of the strongest that Zack has. When you're doing wind, strongest that Zack has. When you're just doing anything, these 2 builds work very, very well because their abilities are so strong as well. Alright, so in-game, we're not going to talk about materia or his armor, because the more armor comes out, the stronger he gets. The materia you have is on you. Those are stat sticks as well, not just like abilities. So if you have materia that doesn't work for the fight, but just makes him ridiculously strong, has like 7% HP or 7% to physical or magical attack up, you just slap it on there for more, right? Materia is situational to the fight you're doing, so I'm not going to really show it here. The only difference is make sure you line these up so your materia does more damage. So ability damage, you want to put ability materias here, right? Down here, physical ability damage plus 20%. Speaking of that, because this weapon doesn't have a sigil breaker, Zack's only sigil breaking weapon, if I'm not mistaken, it's the crystal sword, making that crystal magic build so much stronger. This is like a very strong weapon, very, very strong. Not only does it work really well against fire AoE, firefights, it increases the magic setup, but it also has, if you have to do circle breaking, so good, so good. I like this sword a lot. So keep that in mind as well when you're going through all this. But when you're looking at a really strong build to build for physical, you want to max out his Falchion and his Zwinehander. And then for his sub-weapons, Murasami, Motor Drive, because like I was telling you, this is only a 5-star, no extra copies, level 90, and you take 50% of its stats, meaning you get boost physical attack 16, right? Then that does it again over here for Murasami. Here's the base, level 90, you get 12, but you got to realize that the Murasami as well, natural stat is 239, and the stronger it gets, the crazier this build gets, right? Same thing with Motor Drive. Right now, at only the base, 1 copy, 32. Look what happens when you get extra copies. It goes to 46. On a sub, it's still worth 23 and 479. And then again, this Zwinehander, at level 90, 5-star, just one copy, 500% damage. You go a little higher, 780, fully maxed out, 940% damage against an enemy on this build, right? And if it's weak to wind, you use this instead. I like this setup so much. And again, I showed you those charts down below. If Cloud's on your team using Murasami, you switch this out for one of the other physical attack ups. But eventually, you're not going to need multiple copies because you get multiple copies from the wish list by just choosing them on your wish list so you can make that character perfect. So that is the physical setup. This is the magical setup that I was talking about with tankiness. The umbrella in the main hand, because the umbrella at level 90 and you're going to have a fully max if you're here during the event, will give you magic attack of 398. Putting this in the sub hand will just only give you 200, which is a waste. Where the Arc Sword here, 5-star level 90, has magic attack 225. Later on, the Umbrella is not going to be good, and it will be replaced, and that's why I'm saying if you're not here for the Umbrella, or later on, once these weapons do get multiple copies, they just outshine the Umbrella's damage. So Umbrella's temporarily good, but will not be good for long. Keep that in mind. Could be a couple months though. So yeah, the second this happens and it get maxed out 540. Look at that difference from the 390 something the Umbrella has. And that's what I'm saying. The other alternative I'm going to show you next takes away the Umbrella. So Umbrella with the Arc Sword, using the Sun Umbrella, because this thing is just so good for magic damage dealers. And that magic potency I was talking about, if you're in attack stance, right, and you get this to 5 points only, you get magic ability damage increased by 15% just for being in battle. It's so good. And that just gets better and better and better the stronger these weapons get. Right? And it's just got a huge magic boost. Multiple copies later on will make that more, but I showed you what it was base stats. You get that 55 max magic attack just so naturally from being in the set. So you're going to be here 100 attack in 50%. So you can't go wrong upgrading these weapons. So the alternate magic setup right over here is that setup, right? Now that the Arc Blade is in the main hand, you get that full 16, and then when you upgrade it later on, full 23. So that way it doesn't take as much sub weapons to get there, right? And then you have the Crystal Sword in the extra hand, which is giving you 8 boost attack, 6 of this, and the more copies you get, the easier it is to stack every R ability there is. And then that's where the alternative is. These two are very, very staple for this build, where this can switch into those other weapons I was showing you on the magic chart. The main takeaway from this is that don't be afraid to upgrade the Arc Sword, the Crystal Sword, the Falchion, the Zweinhander. They're just incredible weapons, right? My favorite, hands down, of all these builds is the physical build, because it not only is it AoE, it's just this weapon does so much damage. So these are the builds that I came up with so far. Again, thank you to Surge and J&B from Stream for just like talking back and forth with me about damage calculations. I actually figured out the damage formula a little bit with them. But I also figured out how to calculate a weapon into the character, it makes building characters so much easier. So more future videos, the better I do, or the more I do, the better I'll get at this. This is my first shot at a character build. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. I know the green screen's here. It looks weird. I like my background. But the green screen really helps for you guys. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully your Zack just starts doing a ton of damage. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep on smiling, and I'll smell you all later.